My name is Hilary Smith. I work at the UFT Charter School Elementary Academy. I currently teach kindergarten. They're 5, turning on to 6. The classroom climate that I work to create is one where children are free to explore the classroom. They're free to learn individually and with me as a facilitator, where they can really get hands-on with the knowledge. So if we're learning about caterpillars, they can go and they can touch the caterpillars. They can, they can interact with the caterpillar, learning the body parts. How does the feet feel on their finger? What does the fuzz feel like? What does it look like when, when it's molting and it's turning into a chrysalis? What does it look like when it comes out of the chrysalis? Or with math, they can actually, hold objects that equal 5. What does it feel like to hold 5 teddy bears? This is what it feels like. This is what it counts like. When I hear quality and excellence in early childhood education, I think of dedicated. I think of a professional who is learning themselves, not only from other professionals in the field, but from the children that they are working with, that they learn to understand where these children are coming from, the climate and the culture that their children are learning in, as well as the developmental stage that they're in, and the best practices to bring to these children so that they can give them really great educational strategies. To help create positive interactions between children and teachers, I think that educators need to know the developmental stage of the children that they're working in. They need to have an understanding of the child's likes and dislikes. What are they interested in? For example, in my classroom, I have one child who was struggling to write. And when we were interacting to teach him how to write, he wasn't really fully grasping it. And when I sat down and I talked to him and I realized he really loved Power Rangers, well then I got onto something, and now we have all these interactions with one another about Power Rangers. So everything somehow tying it to the Power Rangers. So by understanding him, I was able to help foster his success. To help encourage learning engagement, in my classroom I organized the physical environment where I have all the stations around the classroom against the walls. And in the center I have the children's desks, and I have a huge area for them to explore. Because I feel like the materials in centers can be moved to where is easily accessible for them. The materials in the centers are all on their level, so they don't need a teacher to go into, like, say, the science center, or to go get writing materials. They can easily, if they wish, go and acquire those materials for themselves. So it's very much centered on their ease of access. In educators' careers, I believe that professional development is key, but I also think that sometimes when we think professional development, we think either the time spent at, the required time spent after school, or those few days where the children have off and we go in and we listen to a lecture. I think that professional development, however, should be a collaboration between teaching professionals, where that teacher down the hallway from you might have a great way to teach math that you yourself don't know, and to collaborate with that professional and to come together across even grade levels to look, how is social studies taught in a kindergarten classroom and how is it taught in a 5th grade classroom? What do they need in 4th grade, and how can we work across to do that? What do we notice the kids are really excited about and are able to do in this younger grade, but somehow we lose that up in here. What do you do to motivate your kids there? So I think definitely collaboration among professionals and sharing, because sometimes teaching can be a very lonely job. And we're in our classroom and we work and we're not really sure what expertise the person across the hall from us or even next door might have or can bring to us. So I definitely think professional development should be within the community professionals, because we are, not just professionals, but we are a community of learners just like our students. I think some of the greatest challenges for teachers of young children come from state tests. And a lot of pressure is put on children achieving really greatly on these tests. And sometimes what I've seen, especially across kindergarten, is a lot is put on that these children have to know X, Y, and Z. And sometimes the kids are not ready for it, either developmentally, or it's just the goal, it's just way too much to get through, learning your alphabet and your sounds, and then going on to, addition and carrying ones and, and other higher thinking skills. And I think sometimes we have to sit there and defend our children. Like, we understand that this is important, but, maybe our children are not ready developmentally for it. But I also think that sometimes you can reach, broader topics and create a strong foundation, by giving the children an exposure. In my classroom, we use observation and record keeping to really track the progress a student is making, or sometimes to track what a student is struggling in. So if I'm working with a student and I notice they're not grasping a couple of sounds, and, phonemic awareness, and if I track, when they're not grasping that, if they are grasping at certain points, I can really pinpoint what I think the strategy that is lacking is and what I think that the student needs to work on. Could also use the records to find out maybe a student is having a rough time around lunch, like right before lunch. So if, anecdotals to find out, what's the best way to tackle this to make the day easier for this child. And maybe that they need a snack in the morning. Maybe they need just a couple of extra minutes outside in the hallway, with someone reading a book or playing with some Play-Doh. Something that children have taught me over the years is to really look further and deeper into everyday objects and everyday situations for things that you might not have seen before, to really look underneath the surface. For example, we were going over the Manhattan Bridge and been over it a million times. Everyone in New York knows it's there. And the children had never been over it before, and they were going over, the train. The train was going over with us, and they were looking at the details of the train, what made up the train, how there were sparks off the rails. They were looking at the cables. They were discussing the color, how was the bridge, built. Look, there's a river. There's light gleaming off of the river. And just sitting there on the bus, answering all these questions and having the kids have a huge discussion, I learned myself to, even if there's something that I've seen, countless times in my life, just to find something and just to look a little underneath the surface to find something new.